Lace up the sneakers, get those basketballs pumped up. Hoops is back. We are talking reactions on the first media practice that happened today. We got somebody that was there. Does Wisconsin have a big three? Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this community. I appreciate the absolute heck out of you. There are a billion things on this planet you could be doing. Thank you for spending a little bit of that time here. Really appreciate it. Today's episode, we were talking Badger Hoops practice today. We got somebody, Payne was there. Payne Blazevich 247 was there. He's going to come on the show, talk about what he saw at practice, boots on the ground, thoughts on Blackwell. Boyd, does Wisconsin have a big three? And then some final thoughts on the Michigan game, massive football game coming up this weekend. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, Mazda sweats every single detail. When you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, let's get Payne in. Second time on the show, man. Really appreciate it. I want to start here. So I said, hey, Payne, I'm probably coming on the show. If you guys have any questions, thoughts. This one's from Tori on Discord. He said, for Payne, not a question, but just a compliment to keep up the great work and the great content you put out. I enjoy Badgers 247. That's from Tori on Discord.
Thank you, Tori. That's really nice. And Ryan, appreciate you having me on again. It's always so much fun to talk with you, chop it up and all that. And yeah, man, exciting day. Glad we got to watch some basketball. I'm really excited for this group and excited for this season. So it was pretty awesome.
Dude, I can't wait. I want to, this is the question that's been in my head for a little bit. Does Wisconsin have a big three? And by that, I mean Boyd, Winter, Blackwell. Are they all good enough to be stars in the Big Ten? Not lottery picks, but they are good enough to be stars in the Big Ten? Or is this more of a big two? Is it a big one? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question. It's difficult because I would, in terms of the context of this team, I would certainly say Boyd, Blackwell, Winter are the big three of this group. They're the clear leaders. I mean, I guess you can call Blackwell and Winter veterans now being juniors, but they're the clear identity and presence of this team. When you talk in terms of the Big Ten, it's difficult just because, like, for Winter, for example, the front court is so loaded in this conference that it's difficult to say whether, he's an all-conference guy or not. But I don't think that takes away from what he can bring on the court for this team, what his impact and his size and his length and his athleticism means to this group. And same with, Boyd and Blackwell. There's a lot of backcourt talent in the Big Ten, but collectively with that group gelled, Wisconsin may have one of the best backcourts in the conference. So it's kind of difficult to say in terms of like nationally, but it's very clear that Nick Boyd, John Blackwell, Nolan Winter, that those are going to be the leaders of this squad for sure.
Who is the leader on this team? Like not the best player, but who do you think is the leader right now?
That's a good question. I think John Blackwell, it's really obvious the role that he's going to take with this group. He's the returning star. He has a chance to be the leading scorer this year. Of course, Nolan Winter, like I said, his presence is very, very prominent in the front court. But I honestly think that Nick Boyd has slotted right in and taken that leadership role. He's obviously the point guard. He's distributing, making the offense work. But he's also just a veteran guy. He's experienced. He's been at a couple of different destinations. And even though he's a transfer, this is going to be his one season with the program. He's stepped right into the leadership role. So I'm completely comfortable saying that Nick Boyd is one of, if not the leader for this group.
And I almost set that up on a tee because I wondered if you were going to go Boyd. A couple of people I've talked to, and I was at a previous practice, for a guy in his first season here and coming on a team with some veterans, like guys that have played ball in Madison. Boyd, dude, he looked. I'll say this: he looks like he's been in Madison playing with these dudes for 3 years.
He's vocal too.
That's what I'm saying.
He makes his presence known. He just brings, and I've said this since the start of the summer. I think that fans are going to love watching him on the court. Just the way that he plays, it's very energetic, it's fast paced, and he's a loud vocal guy. He kind of attracts attention to himself in a positive way. You're gonna love the style that he plays with. He just plays so smooth and free flowing with the ball. I'm perfectly comfortable saying that Boyd is sort of the one that's leading the direction for this offense.
Let's hit on the other starters. Also, like Nick Boyd, two other transfer portal guys coming in, Andrew Rohde, Austin Rapp. I want to start with Andrew Rohde, who I think brings a really, really high IQ, connecting piece, shoot the three. I think he could be your defensive stopper this year as well. What were your thoughts seeing Rohde today?
Yeah, so when we saw him in the summer, I'd seriously would have to think to remember the last time I saw him miss a three. Just consistent shooting from beyond the arc. It was incredible. He had a couple of misses today, but he has a way of finding open space, kind of sneaking into the corner. And then when he gets that ball in rhythm, he can knock down that corner three. So I certainly think that he's going to be a weapon for this offense. And like you said, he's definitely a defensive stopper. He's got a great on-ball presence, and that ability to play both sides of the floor, it's so impactful.
I think one of my favorite things with Rohde, and then we'll get into Austin Rapp, who I'm really intrigued by as well. Rohde's almost like a jumbo point guard out there. He doesn't quite have the ball handling skills, but his passing IQ and his size allows him to see passing angles. He makes a really, really easy plays really quickly. His decision making is advanced, like a veteran quarterback in the pocket. He knows where that next pass needs to go. He's going to make it really difficult for teams to, when this team puts other teams in scramble situations where they're recovering, if they kick it to Rohde, Rohde's going to make that right decision, and teams are going to get put in a blender. I think he's maybe the second best passer on this team right now.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And it's so helpful to have, three different guys that could theoretically bring the ball down the floor if you need. He did control some of the ball with Virginia, his previous stop. And like you said, his vision of the court is impressive. He's made a couple of nice practices in some nice passes in the practices that we've seen him so far. I think he's definitely a player that, can operate best when this offense is free flowing, it's moving, it's in transition. And like I said already, he's a monster from the corner three, definitely.
I love this question from Robert Sorensen, really good friend of the show. Who's kind of the enforcer or the glue guy on this team? Obviously, that was Carter Gilmore last year. He was the guy that would dive on the floor. Maybe it's a Janicki. I don't know. Like who is that glue guy though that is going to take an elbow in the face and then run down the court with blood pouring down, getting the crowd hyped up? Who is that guy?
Okay, I'll give you three. So from a physicality standpoint, I think Nolan Winter is the most physical guy, and I think he's someone that can make his presence known in the front court. He can be the most physical guy, I think. But like you said, Jack Janicki, he kind of just flies around. He's everywhere. He's really just earning his role on the floor. He's played great defense. He's diving for the loose balls. He's kind of, getting in the tussle with on the glass for the rebounds. And then I'll also say transfer guard Braden Carrington. I actually noted today he was very, very aggressive on the glass. He would crash down, bring in the rebounds. Even when it was the 5-on-5 full speed competition, Braden Carrington was finding a way to get the ball, kick it out, and find an open shooter. So I think between those three guys, you have a couple different people that are sort of willing to do the dirty work and take an elbow, dive on the floor, take a charge, get a rebound, things like that.
I love it. Let's move to Rapp for a second. Austin Rapp coming in, the other transfer starter, younger player. This is an interesting one because unlike some of these other portal guys, he could have multiple years in Madison. You hesitate to ever say now this guy's going to be around for 3 years, 2 years, whatever, because you never know. But bring shooting, size, some eligibility. What do you think of Rapp today?
Yeah, he had the best day of anyone so far, for sure. He was lights out from beyond the arc. When he got the ball in rhythm, it's just automatic from the three-point line. And he showed some of that in the summer, obviously coming from Portland. He's slowly sort of integrating into the program. I feel like he was right in rhythm all day, full speed. And he had, I think it was 4 3-point makes in a row. Just Badgers bring the ball down the floor, kick it to Rapp, knock down a three, and just over and over and over again. And so he is a player that when he's hot, he can be one of, if not Wisconsin's most prominent 3-point shooter. So he certainly had the best offensive day on the team so far. And I'm curious to see with these next couple of practices if he's able to keep that 3-point shooting sort of consistent. Because if he is, and we're seeing multiple days where he's knocking down consistent 3-pointers, that is going to be dangerous. And his ability to stretch the floor could be crucial.
Yeah, this is great stuff. We're going to take a second for our friends of the show. Come back with Payne. We're going to talk about a lot of positive here. If there is a worry to this team, what Payne thinks that might be, plus how deep is this team going to get? Plus any questions you have. If you have any hoops questions, Payne was at practice today. Throw them in the chat. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, we need to take a quick second for our friends of the show. We got 195 people here watching this right now, which is incredible. That's about 192 more people than that dates I had in high school. So that's a huge number for just a random Thursday. It's incredible and awesome. Thank you for being here for this. We're going to take a quick second, friends of the show, and come back with more hoops talk. Payne joining us today. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at Mazda. Mazda, for what moves the game forward this week. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more to put points on the board. They move crowds. These moments that you always kind of remember in time, the moments that move the week forward, that move the game forward, that keep the crowd into it. And there wasn't a football game last week. We're coming off a bye. So let's just think of a historical Badger moment that moved the game forward. And, one of those moments I always think about was that Russell Wilson to Jeff Duckworth heave throw against Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. Just unbelievable into two people. He hauls it in. Wisconsin wins that game, gets revenge against Michigan State. That's one of those moments that always moves forward, that always keeps you kind of locked into those incredible, iconic Badger moments. Right now, when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode also brought to you by our incredible friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. We almost have football back, which is amazing. It's time to look back and crown this week's Who Delivers. And again, we didn't have football last week, so let's talk about another all-time Who Delivered moment for the Wisconsin Badgers. It's 4-0-8. Melvin Gordon in 3 quarters against the Nebraska Cornhuskers with the snow starting to fall under the lights in Camp Randall, one of the greatest running back performances in the history of the sport. Melvin Gordon delivered every Saturday, just like DoorDash. And right now, DoorDash, the more you get delivery, the more that streak is going to stack up and save you money and save you cash. DoorDash delivers every Saturday, and with streaks, the more you order, the more you're going to save. Up to $250 and up to $100 in DoorDash credits. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms to apply. Promo period through 11/18. All right, let's come back in here with Payne. Payne, definitely tell people where they can find all the amazing work that you do. Tori already mentioned it, loves 247, complimented your work. Where else can people find the stuff you got going on?
Yeah, so we got stuff coming out every single day at Badger 247. Myself, Nick Osen, John McNamara. We've got football coverage, basketball just starting up. We got recruiting coverage. And then you can find me on Twitter at Payne Blazevich, no spaces, but Badger 247. That's where you're going to see all of our content every single day.
Go follow Payne. Go check out 247. I talk about 247 all the time. Like I'm on that board. Osen's obviously a great friend of the show. Mac has been on here. Payne is second time on the show. 3 times and you get a blazer. So let's look out for that. Let me ask you this, because a lot of optimism offensively, and I share all of that. What's your biggest concern with this team right now, or maybe concern strong? Biggest question?
I think my biggest question would be on defense, and specifically just the defense around the rim. Like, I want to see who on this group is going to be able to get the stops in the paint, at the glass, and if they're going to be able to contest some teams on the inside. I wonder about defense in general, but I feel like this team's on-ball defense in the backcourt has looked really good so far, especially this practice today. Felt like John Blackwell was very physical, was getting hands in there. I saw Nick Boyd pop his hand in for a steal as well. So I want to see this team get stops on the inside. Nolan Winter, we've seen Will Garlock in that role a little bit too, maybe Austin Rapp down low, but I think the interior defense is probably my biggest question so far.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I'm still a little worried about on-ball defense, and I didn't see today's practice, to be fair. I saw the last one we were able to get to. I thought it was a little dicey in that one, which was a while ago, and that was a sample size of 1. But last year wasn't very good either. Now, this year's different. You have Rhodey, you have some different pieces. You have Boyd, which I think will help there. I think defense in general worries me a little bit. I think you're dead on with interior. There's going to be some really physical teams in the Big Ten, and you're going to miss a bulkier front court there. Rapp is going to have to grow up quickly to be able to play in some of those moments. I do think that's a legitimate concern. Let's talk about how deep this team is going to be. I'm curious. We're going to play a little game. We have our 5 starters, and correct me if I'm wrong, we know who the 5 starters are.
I would say so.
Yeah. And I'll just rehash for everyone kind of Boyd, Blackwell, Winter, Rapp, and Rhodey. There's your 5 starters. Okay.
Yeah, I would say so.
So I'm going to ask you, we're going to try to figure out how deep this team is going to be. I'm going to give you a name, and you're going to give me yes or no, this player is going to be a consistent part of the rotation, playing every game, 10-ish minutes at least.
Okay.
Braden Carrington.
I think so. I would say yes, especially with what we saw today. It kind of is tricky with Hayden Jones coming into the fold. I don't know how much impact he's going to make, and the true freshman Zach Kinzinger has been really good, but I would say right now, until proven otherwise, I would say yes, consistent contributor.
Okay. And again, we're very early on all this. We know that, but we're going to take a stab at it. I would agree with you, by the way. I think Carrington, because of his physical size, his ability to cover 3 different spots, I think he can cover the 1, 2, or 3 with his physicality.
Mm-hmm.
He's a veteran. He can hit shots in space. He can hit shots when he's kind of in a spot. He's not going to be shoot off transition or shoot off movement, but I think he is in that rotation. I agree. Janicki, to me, that's a yes.
Yeah. Greg Gard loves Jack Janicki. Loves the energy he plays with. Loves the ferocity that he plays with, and he shot the ball really well too in practice. So I would say yes for sure.
Okay, so we're up to 7 for the counter. We're up to 7.
Mm-hmm.
Will Garlock, consistent role this year, and maybe even after the first couple of weeks, maybe it takes a little bit of time, but does he develop into a consistent role?
That's tough because it's so hard to play the forward position as a freshman in college, especially in a league like the Big Ten. And also Wisconsin has some depth at the forward position, but he's looked good in practice. I feel like, guys that are 7-footers sometimes can lumber a little bit, especially when they're young and haven't developed athletically yet. But Will Garlock hasn't looked like that. He's looked athletic. He's looked physical. He's looked like he's been able to match up. So I definitely have liked what he's shown, but it's hard to project and extrapolate. So I would say, I'm on the fence. I would say maybe no for right now, just because it's so hard to play as a freshman, but I'm willing to be proven wrong on that.
Yeah, I'm going to say no as well. Would happy to be wrong. 100% would happy to be wrong. But I think he's the type of guy that in some games you might see him get 15, maybe even 20 minutes in certain matchups. And then in some games he just doesn't play much because the matchup isn't there for a freshman big. So I don't know if the consistent role will be there. What about Elijah Gray, upperclassman transfer coming in? We did have a question in the chat about him as well. So what did you maybe see from him? And do you think he's a consistent player this year in this rotation?
His physicality showed up in the summer, and he showed an ability to finish at the rim at times. I think that room is just really crowded. So it normally rotations in basketball are a lot smaller than what you feel like they would be in practice. So I would say no for right now, but his veteran presence is really impactful. And I could absolutely see a world where, Wisconsin wants him to see the floor consistently, but with some of the athleticism and the shooting ability that like Rat brings in the front court, I would say no. In terms of like 10 minutes, I would probably say no for right now.
I would agree with you there. I think he's a little, when you go back and look at what he's done in his career, it's a little too one-dimensional for me to carve out a really consistent role in the Big Ten. He draws a lot of fouls, but he also turns the ball over. He's not a great shooter. I think he's another guy like Garlock that's going to give you minutes in certain moments that are going to be really important. And then in a couple of games, he might play like 1 minute. He might even be a DNP. But it's nice.
I would agree with that. Yep, I would agree with that.
Give me Kinzinger. Sure. Give me Zach Kinzinger. Consistent. And again, well, with the freshman, we'll caveat it. It might be something they grow into. So maybe the first couple of weeks, but at some point this year, consistent in this rotation.
Man, he's been awesome in practice so far.
I love him.
So I don't want to say this as if it's a negative, because he's knocked down some shots today. He's really attacked the rim. He's been playing fast. He's going into his first season, but he's been smart and he's been knowing where to be on the court. But man, the depth of this backcourt is so vast that I think it's going to be just hard to see the floor. And I would not be surprised if he's a guy that, has the odd game that he really finds a rhythm and gets going. But consistently, I would say probably not. But, he's someone I'd be willing to be proven wrong there too. And he's shot the ball well. He's been energetic. He's shown some of his quickness. So I would say no for right now, but again, like I said with Garlock, I'm willing to be proven wrong on him, definitely.
The thing I like about him is he comes in as a shooter, but it's really the intangible stuff with him that stands out to me. He'll play hard defense. He understands basketball. He comes from a hooping family. His brothers were hoopers. Like, you can just tell. Like, there's some basketball DNA in him that makes him just a little unique from a true freshman. But I kind of agree with you. Let's go,
Yeah,
Alexis.
he's kept pace. Just on really quick, he's kept pace, and that is so hard to do with guys that have been in school for 3, 4, and 5 years, and that are elite athletes, can shoot the ball with very little space, and he's been right there. So again, like I said, probably not, but I've been really impressed with what he's shown so far.
Well, he feels like a guy too. Before we move on to and Rod wants to ask us about Alex Bialuskas. He's a guy in Kins who I think I would be stunned, barring some type of injury or something like that. I would be stunned if he's not a good player by the time he leaves Wisconsin. Like a real like that's a legitimate Big Ten starter by the time he leaves Wisconsin. I'd be stunned.
Yeah, for sure.
What about Alexis Bialuskas?
Yeah, so this was our first look at him. Him and Hayden Jones, international guys, came over for summer conditioning, but weren't on the floor during summer practice. So it was our first look, and he's getting acclimated. It's kind of hard for me to project right now just because I really haven't seen enough of him. He can play the floor incredibly intelligently. That's what happens when you develop as, a pro overseas. He's attacked the screening at the top of the perimeter. He broke open for a couple of finishes down low near the hoop. But I think it's pretty clear that he's still getting acclimated, adjusted to what this team needs from him. But I definitely think he could be a guy that sees the floor consistently this season. I just haven't seen that in practice yet because I've seen him, one time.
Yep. I think it's super fair. And I haven't seen him live, right? So I didn't see him last time I was in Madison. I've seen film on him, but it wouldn't be fair for me to speculate on that one. I want to throw this question in here, and then I want to wrap it up again. I want to be respectful of your time, but I would love to hit on Michigan next. But I do want to throw this question in here. This is from Alien Space. In your opinion, who's the most athletic guy on the team?
Probably Nick Boyd. I think just because of his quickness, his explosiveness, like he can be sitting at the top of the key and then just flash downhill and get to the hoop. He just plays with this energy at the top of the key. And I think he has a great motor. Like you don't see that athleticism and that speed kind of dwindle off, as the day goes on. He keeps it consistent throughout the whole practice. So I would say Nick Boyd. Nolan Winter, for his size, is incredibly athletic, and he can get vertical and finish hard at the rim, throw it down with 2 hands. But I would go probably Nick Boyd, and then John Blackwell, I would say, has an argument too.
I think great answers. My one was Nolan Winter. It's just sometimes big guys don't get the credit for athleticism because you're never going to be as quick as a point guard if you're Nolan Winter. But the world if you just travel the world, man, there's not many 6'11" guys that can move in space like Nolan Winter. He is unique. He is fluid, athletic, springy. He's more athletic. So again, because it's Wisconsin, because of some of the bigs we've had in our past, the Steven Crowells, those types, big men at Wisconsin don't always get credit for being as athletic as they are. He's really athletic for a big man. I think I would go Winter on this one.
Yeah, when you see him move the floor in transition and then see a lob thrown up to him and see how he finishes it, I could definitely agree with you on that for sure.
I get the Boyd one too, though. All right, we're going to take a quick second here, friends of the show. Come back. We're going to talk Michigan. And Payne, I've asked Payne to tell me something optimistic about this game. How does Wisconsin pull this upset? We're going to talk, or at least stay close in it. What's the path for that? We're talking Michigan coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for friends of the show. New friends of the show. Always exciting to welcome new people into our circle. Peloton. Peloton's an industry powerhouse. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton cross-training tread powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, whether you're lifting, cross-training, and with your favorite instructors, it's bringing it all together. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs, not just with the tech, but also a breakthrough with your body. Let's lose that dad bod. Let's lose that grandpa bod. Let's lose that whatever bod and get that new bod that you want for 2025, 2026. It tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, corrects your form, making every rep safer, smarter, and more efficient. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Let's get into a little better shape and let's lead a little bit better version of ourselves. All right, Payne. Had a question here. Let me throw this up. Convince me why Michigan doesn't throttle us on Saturday, from Ryan H. Sounds like a really smart guy, probably a good-looking chap.
Yeah, good question from that Ryan dude. I think the one win condition that this team has is to contain Michigan's run game. Now, Wisconsin has the number 1 ranked run defense in the country, which surprised me when I saw it when I was looking it up for a story earlier this week. But this team has been able to consistently stop opponents on the ground. I think they're allowing an average of 50 yards per game, which is impressive, and it's legit. And Michigan's rushing attack is strong, it's prolific, but it does have a tendency to be kind of hot and cold. So if Wisconsin can at least find some momentum in that spot, get a couple of tackles for loss, get some stops, they need the offense to be able to answer and to respond and to control the tempo. I know that's asking a little bit, maybe a lot from that group, but they need to be able to control the tempo offensively. But this run defense can definitely get stops. And I think if you sort of have those units bouncing off of each other, there's a world where you're not letting Michigan run all over you, I would say. What this defense has on the interior and some of the guys on the outside at inside linebacker, it's impressive. And, we've seen it over these past 4 games or so. I think that is the best path forward to holding Michigan and, finding a way to keep this one as close as possible.
Yeah, very well said. And that's where I would start too. It's the run defense. My question is, and Bo Dragon actually hit on something a little aligned with what I was going to ask. Bo says we haven't played a running team yet. I almost wonder if I don't think you go 4 weeks into the season and have the number 1 ranked rushing defense in the country without some substance. There is some substance there, 100%.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, you go to a game like Alabama, they probably didn't feel like they needed to run the ball. And Alabama hasn't been a great rushing attack already this season, but they were getting whatever they wanted through the air. Maryland has been able to consistently attack through the air and got some of those big plays over the top. So, that is true. They haven't played a run first team so far this season, but I still feel like what this group has shown so far, you can at least have the highest expectations for them on this roster. But, like Jim just said there in the chat, like this group hasn't been tested to the degree that it will be against Michigan with the rushing attack. So it'll be another game where we get a better glimpse at what this defense is capable of. But, don't have a lot of other options. Like, that's got to be what I go with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what I would say too, I would say 2 things. Like, I said this about Daniel Neal after the Middle Tennessee game. I said, he's not that good, but also don't judge him on what Alabama does to him. Like, there's a middle ground there for Daniel Neal. I think this rush defense is going to be similar. I don't think we're the greatest rush defense in college football, all things being equal. I think Michigan is also an elite running attack. It's a really dominant group. So we might give up some gashers this week. That doesn't mean the rush defense is bad either, right? So I would throw that out there to start. The other thing I would say is somehow, some way, this team has to start faster. If they don't come out in that first quarter, if they come out in that first quarter, and this is what I've said consistently, after the bye week, after that Maryland game, after getting embarrassed, after getting booed at home, if you don't come out this first quarter and play the first quarter of your lives, like if it's like 14-0 at the end of 1, I'm going to be incredibly just disheartened, man. Like, thoughts? That wasn't even a question. It was just kind of like my ramble of what because I'm a Badger fan, right? And I always do this show from the perspective of, I try to be fair, but I'm a Badger fan. I'm going to have a hard time finding any faith in this program if they don't look like they want to compete in the first quarter after what has happened.
So here's what first quarters have looked like against Alabama and Maryland, because I wrote it down trying to find it.
Oh, good.
So you've had a pair of turnovers, 2 blocked kicks, and given up 2 touchdowns in the first quarter against Alabama and Maryland. You got to cut down on some of that. You got to cut down on some of the costly mistakes. These aren't mistakes that, the opponent is forcing. They weren't giving up touchdowns because, Maryland popped a great play, schemed something great. It's because they got the ball inside the 10-yard line because of a bad interception. Wisconsin didn't put points on the board because, they couldn't move anywhere down the field. It's because they had a field goal blocked. It's because Daniel Neal took a shot and wasn't able to connect and threw an interception. Like, some of these mistakes are avoidable. Some of them aren't, but the blocked kicks, the penalties, the huge negative plays, like some of those have to be cut down. And I hope that a bye week helped in some of that, maybe helped refocus, helped reset something. But those costly mistakes cannot continue. And like you said, if we go into the first quarter and we see something like that again, we see another, disastrous 15 minutes, it's completely understandable that is going to be frustrating. So, it's hard to say. I mean, some of these are avoidable, and cutting down on that is going to be the best chance Wisconsin has to play the first half that they want to.
Yeah, I think it's well said. He is paying Blasvich247. Go follow him. For everybody in the chat right now, and for everyone's going to watch later, thank you again so much for doing this. There's a billion things you could be doing right now. Thank you for spending a little bit of that time with us on Locked On Badgers. Really do appreciate it. Bunch more content coming up. We got Rajiv tomorrow, Fact or Fiction, live game reaction after Michigan as well. Plus a couple guests that I'm trying to lock in. They're there, but we haven't found the time, so I don't want to announce it. But Payne, as always, dude, thank you so much. Awesome having you on here.
I appreciate you guys listening to me rant and rave. Ryan, your community is awesome. Love having you on. It helps me, formulate my thoughts a little bit more when I have a chance to talk them out. So I really appreciate the time again. Thanks, dude.
Man, always welcome on Wisconsin, and we will talk tomorrow.